Now, the thing is that today we have invited Dr. Gitanjali Swamy. She lives in Lexington, Massachusetts. Her husband is Professor of Mechanical Engineering and Vice President of the MIT, and also her classmate in IIT Kanpur, Sanjay Sharma. And she has a daughter who called Tara, who is also now first year in MIT. So they are all much brighter than the rest of her family, cousins and so on. So we thought that we should bring her and be exposed to this audience. And she knows law. She has taught at Harvard for some time, and then now she's a consultant and based in the United States. She was born there, so she's very much a citizen of the United States. Now, this subject is going to be the subject of the future. So we want our people to get at least a sense of what it is, because it's a complicated subject for the ordinary person. And therefore, I was of the view that we should get some people who are experts in the field, but at the same time can explain it in simple language. As far as I can see, this is the latest development in the question of paying for exchange of goods. It started with barter when we were all in the Stone Age, where if somebody wanted to buy 2 donkeys, he used to bring a horse, or he wanted to buy a cow and he brought a buffalo. You know, this kind of barter agreement was there. The problem was that since it was barter, you had to find somebody who was willing to sell a cow for a buffalo, or something else for something else. So this matching was a very difficult thing to do, and slowly we moved on to a form of currency which was originally pieces of stone, and then soon it graduated to gold, and that ruled the roost for many centuries. Paying gold, which became universally acceptable, and then buying what you want and selling for gold. So that became the first time some kind of a via media or a currency came into being. Over the years, carrying bags of gold was very inconvenient. So the paper currency was interrupted. It was invented, and in the paper currency, it was against the amount of gold the country had. So there was a form of a kind of a central bank which had gold, and it printed the paper currency, and there were people were guaranteed that if they went and gave the currency in paper currency, they would get gold in return from the bank. And then it went on graduating, and after World War I, slowly we moved into something called just paper currency. I mean, the gold standard was removed, and now there is nothing to say that the government can't print notes. They can print as they like. Of course, there are economic consequences and so on, but those are including money supply, generating inflation and so on. So, but the fact is that we are now at a stage where every country has the freedom to print as much notes as it wants. And the people are paid in notes, and then they exchange it, and there is no guarantee that if anything happens, the bank will give you gold or anything. There's no guarantee. There's no question also. So now the question today becomes, what's the next step? And the next step is frightening for traditionalists like me, because what is the next step is that there will be no government. There will be direct bilateral exchanges through the computer. And so, isn't that dangerous? Can we manage such a system? Will it not go out of control? As the government of India told the Supreme Court, this is a new kind of Ponzi scheme, and the government of India is resisting it coming. But in many countries, it's now becoming an integral part. I think, if I'm not wrong, and Gitanjali can correct me, or Sree Iyer can correct me, United States has a parallel cryptocurrency market, to my knowledge. They can correct me on it. But India, we are still very much against it. The Supreme Court, fortunately, the Reserve Bank at first outlawed it, and the Supreme Court struck it down in 2020. And since then, the government is mulling what to do and bring what new law, perhaps bring this the prevention of money laundering issues and try to block it. But I think it's unstoppable. So therefore, we must learn what it is. And first, I will ask Sree Iyer, who is an extremely versatile, brilliant person. And even though he's in, I think, in Los Angeles or someplace like that for a family wedding, for VHS, he has walked, come out of that. He's bunked that, so to speak, and so he's come here for an hour, and we wish him well. Thank you very much. We are all enjoying all your publications. What you have done in producing that volume on National Herald is so good that I don't even have to bother to prepare my final case when I frame charges. Everything is there. So, and he has written large numbers of books, and each of them, I'm sure that if you go to his website, PGurus, you will find them all. So, before I hand over to Sree Iyer, I just want to put quickly 7 questions that everybody asks me. First of all, what do you mean? Why is it called cryptocurrency? What is the meaning? What's crypto about it? 2, what is this blockchain everybody talks about? 3 is that there's a distributed ledger technology. What is this ledger? And what is this distributed ledger? Then there's called cryptocurrency mining. Then the Supreme Court had set aside the government ban of 2018, our Reserve Bank. And then the government became very hostile and said this is a Ponzi scheme. But still, at the moment, the government of India is ginger about it. And so I'd like his opinion, and of course Gitanjali's opinion, and her also contribution to the definitional issues. How do we go, and do you see this coming and replacing, like the paper currency replaced the gold standard backed currency, which replaced gold itself, and so on. The evolution. Is this part of the evolution? And there's no way we can avoid it, and therefore it's better to learn it or be with it. And so over to you, Sree Iyer, Guru Iyer, I should say now. And please, take about 15 minutes, and then Gitanjali will take 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, Dr.
By the way,
Swamy.
I want to say that one Chupa Rustam is here, that is N. Ramesh. So in the end, we are going to corner him and make him say something also. Go ahead.
Namaskaram to everybody, viewers. It's been a pleasure coming on Arth Gyan Ganga. This is the first time I'm coming on the Arth Gyan Ganga series, and as always, it's a pleasure to be among family and friends. The term cryptocurrencies is something to do with something that is encrypted, and that is just a series of numbers in a very simplistic way. Dr. Gitanjali will try to refine whatever I'm saying when her turn comes, but take it from me, I'm just trying to gently ease you into this thing. So like Dr. Swamy said, you had the barter system, then you had currencies pegged against the gold, and then you had paper currency. Now what people are trying to do is, I want to be able to send or to money to somebody else without either the country I live in or the country that the receiver lives in knowing anything about it. So this kind of anonymity was possible using cryptocurrency. The first of them is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the one which probably was one of the first, let's say, but that took root because it had a couple of features that made it very interesting. One was the founder, who we still don't know who it is, said that you can only create up to a maximum of 23 million Bitcoins. Just take that number. It could be a little bit more or it could be a little bit less. It's in the 20 million range. And because it is finite, therefore, as people start mining more and more, the remaining bitcoins that you can get out becomes less and less, and thereby, because this is a resource that is less, the value of the bitcoin keeps going up. That's why you see in the market today, I think around $38,000, $40,000 to one bitcoin. This is the reason, because there are fewer bitcoins or fewer new bitcoins to mine. So how does somebody say that I have a bitcoin? What you have to do is, there is a process that you need to initiate using multiple servers, and these things will keep on doing a process which will at the end generate what is called as a bitcoin. Now when you think that you're done and you have a new bitcoin, you need to have 50 or more than that independent people scattered across the world come and certify it. It is sort of like Vasishtar saying, okay, now you have done enough tapasya to be called a Brahma Rishi. Something similar to that. Something similar to that, the Bitcoin is anointed and saying, yes, you have mined a new Bitcoin. And once you reach that stage, then you are the proud owner of a new Bitcoin. Perhaps you have to spend $30,000 spending the money to mine it, but you can still make a profit of $20,000 because the market price today is $20,000. This is very crude. Gitanjali ji will refine it for our viewers, but I'm trying to take you in gently, and then we can go one step at a time. Now, the technology on which Bitcoin resides is called as blockchain. Again, I'm going to try and simplify it so that people can understand in real life terms. Yeah. So think about it this way. Now, most of us, when the document is big and we want to send it across to XYZ, what we do is we do zip, or we compress it. When you compress the data, and then you get, say, 1 meg file becomes a half a meg file, then you send the half a meg file across to the other person, and then the other person decompresses it, gets back the original. So this is what is compression decompression. Now there is another method that is used, and this was used from 20-30 years ago. What it is that it's called as authentication. And in that, what happens is you create what is called as a digital signature of whatever data you are sending. So what happens is, let us say I want to send 1 meg file to Dr. Gitanjali Swamy. I create something called as a digital hash, and I send it to her. And then if she happens to have the original file and she creates the same process that I did to create the digital signature, and at the end, if that hash matches mine, then that means the originals are the same. You see the thing. So the advantage of hash is you will not get the original back, unlike the zip file, but you will know that the original was this. So this is what is called as I'm trying to remember the name. Anyway, so the digital signature creation is at the foundation of this thing, and it is called as blockchain. In blockchain, what you do is every time this data goes from one hand to the other, you keep adding and then creating the signature, and that gets tagged. So you get a link of signatures, and thereby, because these links are available at any point, somebody can go and backtrace and see what are all the points it touched before it came to that person. So this is the fundamental underpinning, and that is called as blockchain. Now, the digital ledger technology can be thought of as a superset of blockchain, where blockchain is one way to maintain a digital ledger. Why is it called a digital ledger? If you think about accountants, right? Everybody has ledgers. Because this found its first application, Bitcoin, in finance, people start thinking in terms of finance, and they started attributing terms which make sense for an accountant. That is why it's called digital ledger technology. Now, the application of the blockchain technology is not limited to just finance. You can use it in many other ways. In a previous hangout, I had explained how blockchain can be used to track elections. And if with your permission, I'll just spend 1-2 minutes explaining this again. So what you can do is, we had this huge controversy about the 2020 elections in the United States. We've had similar things in 2016, how the election was stolen, blah blah blah. Somebody got some foreign country was involved in it, all kinds of allegations and so on and so forth. Now, the reason all this cannot be just brushed away is because in the United States, the way it conducts its elections is totally dependent on, at a state level, at sometimes even the county level, where they choose how they want to conduct the election for their county. So because of this, there is a lot of subjectivity involved, there are a lot of variations involved, and therefore there is no uniform process. Unlike in India, where there is the uniform process of electronic voting machine, with the PAT facility that Dr. Swamy got introduced, now it's almost impossible to try and cheat at it, because the person who's casting the vote will be able to see the vote, what part who he selected, as the thing slowly drops through the window. They should look for it though, and then they know that, okay, I cast the vote for a hand. I see that the hand symbol is now selected, and therefore my vote is in. So this process does not exist in the United States, and I have been championing that in United States it needs to start at a small level. Maybe conduct the student council elections of MIT, use blockchain technology, and try and get that pilot project going, thereby making sure that people can get the benefits of this blockchain technology. What are the benefits? One is you can sit at your home, use your phone, and log into this electoral process and cast your vote. Second, you can change your mind. You don't like this person because they made a particular statement, you can go back and change your mind, change your vote. Now, the last vote you cast before the election date comes down, that shall be your vote. But you will also have a record of how many times you change your mind. Most important thing here is, because the blockchain is going to be maintained at the election commission level, they will know that uniquely whoever voted, and any kind of somebody not having the adequate record, all that stuff can be squeezed out right at the beginning. Because when you assign somebody to vote from their phone, you can do the authentication and make sure that everything is above board. So that is the main advantage of using blockchain. You can use blockchain to have land records. In Tamil Nadu, and I'm sorry to say this, with DMK, this is going to raise its ugly head one more time. Many of us who have left Tamil Nadu and have come abroad, these are the first targets. These were the first targets the previous time they were in power. They will identify systematically, go to land records, find out, oh, this turkey is no longer living here, his parents are gone, this is easy pickings, and they'll come up with a ridiculously low number and try to get it off of you to make it look legit. And if you still hold on to it, they know that the legal system in India is going to take forever. Suddenly you no longer are owning your property, the thing just gets changed at the land record. So these kinds of things can be stopped if the land registry records are also stored on a blockchain. By the way, there are two types of blockchains, and again, mota meaning big picture. There is something called as permissionless blockchain, meaning it is an open blockchain, and there is a permissioned blockchain. Now, the application that I'm talking about, whether using blockchain for voting or for land registry, those will have to be permissioned. It cannot be permissionless. And the Bitcoin technology, which is also based on blockchain, is a permissionless technology. Anybody can jump onto that and see what is going on. So in short, I think, Dr. Swamy, I have answered most of your questions. If I miss anything, please let me know, sir.
You're muted.
I am muted.
No, you're good, sir. You're good.
Now you're good.
Okay. No, I think you have given a comprehensive coverage of it. I would like, moving on to Gitanjali,
right,
to say that what Sree Iyer said just now, he used 4 or 5 terms quite frequently: blockchain, Bitcoin, and so on. So you might consider giving a layman's translation of this concepts when it's possible to fit into your talk. And also, I want the audience to realize that we are now at a evolved stage, and that is we are moving away from the government being a part of the transactions. I hope I'm right when I'm saying this, that this cryptocurrency will make permission of the government unnecessary, whether by issuing currency notes or other forms of checks. You are in a direct bilateral discussion and negotiations to carry out transactions. And now, is that dangerous? And or is there some safeguards we can think about? So over to Gitanjali, and people are admiring your green Tara at the back, especially the people from Northeast India who are listening to you. They have made a special mention of it. Thank you for recognizing that. Okay, over to you, Gitanjali.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy. So, computer science is actually very simple at its heart. So instead of using a lot of terminology, let me just ask you, start with a very simple, understanding. So why do we need currency? In the first place, why would we need currency? You had, Dr. Swamy had explained that, it's a much more efficient solution than having a barter system. But even then, why currency? And why do you need the government to hold currency? And it comes down to trust. So the problem is, the reason we need the government to give us currency is because we don't trust the other person. That's the reason why the currency was initially based on gold. So what blockchain is really it's a technological solution for letting mutually distrusting entities to agree upon history. That's actually very important, because if two people who don't trust each other have a way of equally trusting how history is recorded, then we have a way of essentially creating a ledger that records history of who gave whom what. Right? So think of this as, in India, why do we have big weddings? Well, we have big weddings because later on, if the groom denies and says, I wasn't there, I didn't get married, you have all these witnesses. That's actually how the blockchain mechanism works. You've got the universe, which are all witnesses. Now, one of those witnesses is going to record the marriage. He's the Pandit who says, I am signing this marriage and I'm saying this marriage happened. And that is the notion of a minor. Technologically, the way we do it is we basically give a very tough problem. And that's the notion of, that's where the crypto comes in. We give a very tough cryptological problem. And the first person to solve that problem in the collection of people that is gathered for the marriage gets paid for doing that. That's why there's so much money in mining. And they sign the chain and they put it onto the blockchain to say, I'm verifying that these two people are married. So that's the way to think about it. It's really, it's very elegant, because it says, instead of having a government that goes and verifies that this is genuine and everything has been done correctly, now the people, because they're all gathered here for the marriage, if you think about it, are witnesses to it. And one of those witnesses, because on the strength of their intellectual horsepower, gets to sign it. That's why mining is such a expensive operation, because it's a tough problem. You need a lot of computational problem to solve it, right? So that is sort of the principle. So once we can create a mechanism where we don't need a government to provide us trust, we have created a computer science, technological, algorithmic solution that guarantees the trust in the history. I still don't have to trust the other person that I'm doing a transaction with, right? It becomes possible for us to create money around it. So now, having said that, nothing is perfect. And the reason nothing is perfect is because we're always having to deal with human beings. It doesn't matter how perfect your computer science algorithm is. the flows in a cryptocurrency are actually human flows. So let me give you an example of something, and it doesn't matter which way you're using. If you're using proof of work, proof of stake, proof of authority, whichever method you use to basically create your Brahmin who will go and, verify it, there are still human flows. You can't change that, right? Because we can't do away with human beings. That is a human system. So one of the biggest problems with cryptocurrencies, everybody says, oh, it's perfect because, we can ensure trust and people can do transactions because there's trust. One of the biggest problem is, yes, as long as you have an honest Brahmin, right? so here is the trick is you need to have basically honest miners. Now, how do you ensure honest miners? The argument is, well, there's so many of them. It's a marketplace. So basically the market will essentially, you're giving them a tough problem and it's a tough market, so they'll solve it. But that's not actually correct, because if you look at today, where the majority of mining is done, some 65 to 75% of the world's Bitcoin mining is done in China, where there is cheap electricity and relatively easy access to manufacturers who make the specialized computational hardware that you need. So the biggest problem that you have is miner collusion. If all the Brahmins go and collude, right, and then falsely verify a wedding, then you have a problem on your hands, right? So the challenge, I think, is it's understanding. Now, that does not mean that crypto will not happen. Crypto is going to happen. This is the future, moving on to this decentralized notion. But I think a recognition of what are the inherent vulnerabilities is very important. And the role of government is to provide the regulatory governance that ensures that you don't have miner collision. So, and I think at a state level, this is very important, right? And so you have to deal with miner collision, which is one of the biggest problems in blockchain, especially given the concentration of miners. You have to deal with dishonest, selfish miners or perverse incentives where people align with dishonest and selfish miners. And these are all things that have to be subject to governance in order for the system to work properly. Now, having said that, this is still a very elegant mechanism. I mean, I go back to the wedding. What a beautiful way. You invite 1,000 people to an Indian wedding and, it doesn't matter. Someone will come up and say, no, wait, I was there. This wedding happened. So the groom can't change his mind later on. The transaction is valid, right? But having said that, again, other than the inherent issues which have to be addressed through governance, and this is why governments need to take a position on crypto, there is an issue of it's a tool. So the tool can be used for good or it can be used for bad. Now, personally, I love the idea of crypto because I think that there are a lot of economic externalities that are environmental, social, or related to governance. I think Sree gave a beautiful example of governance with elections verification, for instance. You can suddenly start to take those economic externalities and quantify them through a new cryptocurrency. So some of the lovely things that I have seen, for instance, is factoring in things through what are called impact tokens. So for instance, solar coin, which relates alternative energy generated by solar to a crypto token that can then verify that you're doing good things in terms of generating energy, or fish coin, which looks at, whether you're sustainably, catching fish, instead of denuding the oceans. Some of the carbon credits. I think Veridium uses carbon credits. So you can start to take a lot of these things and you can wrap a currency around it, and that is a very powerful mechanism for shaping human behavior. So governments can use this not just as a currency, but as a currency that values the things that we don't value today and track it according to that. So now, what is the other thing that's beautiful about blockchain? One of the challenges that you find with marginalized communities is financial inclusion. People don't have bank accounts in India, right? And so the beautiful thing about a lot of cryptocurrencies is it's actually a tool for financial inclusion. As Sree has commented, he said, all you need is your mobile phone. Everybody has a mobile phone nowadays. That's such a pervasive phenomena. So I have heard of aid workers in Africa. I mean, this is. I've talked to them when we've had USAID meetings and things like that, and they have told me that they find it easier to pay people in Bitcoin, because by the time you pay all the banking fees to translate it into the local African currency, and then the dangers of being robbed with that currency, all those things start getting factored in. It's impossible. It's very hard to get it, and it's not timely. Look at how much time a financial transaction. I mean, I know if I try and wire money from the US to India, I don't know how many layers of bureaucracy I have to deal with. Here, it is seamless. The cost is very low, and you can provide it to everybody. Anyone who has a cell phone can access the Bitcoin. So people in the aid industry prefer being paid in cryptocurrencies than being paid in whatever the local currency is. Right? And it's actually sometimes more stable. Now, that is so there are all these beautiful possibilities in terms of what you can do with it, how it is essentially, a community-based trust mechanism, how you can use it to account for economic externalities. But there's also the bad. And when I say the bad, I don't mean the ways of manipulating the system, but how things, the same tool. I mean, people can, it's like a shovel, right? You can use the shovel to plant beautiful flowers, or you can take the shovel and beat someone to death with it. It doesn't change the fact it's a shovel. So where is the bad use of the shovel? Well, the bad use of the shovel is, firstly, it's used because it's so anonymous. It's so easy. It has a lot of people, that use it for money laundering and for drug dealing and arms dealing, because it's anonymous. In fact, this recent ransomware attack, right, where they blackmailed a whole bunch of people, including the Colonial Pipeline, the blackmail payment was made in Bitcoin. There's a Bitcoin wallet sitting there with about $100 million, which nobody knows whose wallet it is, right? So it's great for that. And, I think it was last year or something like that, I think, what was it? One of the Mexican drug cartels, the Sinaloan cartel, basically was shown to be laundering money through Chinese crypto brokers. So because it's so beautiful, it's so anonymous, it has such low friction costs, and it has no government regulation, you can use it for a lot of things. So that's the negative of it. The other big problem is this is a new emerging financial market. So what are the things that happens? This is like tulips, the Dutch tulips in the 1600s, which I'm sure Dr. Swamy is very familiar with. The moment you create a new financial market, human beings then start speculating. And there are these wild Ponzi schemes that build up, not because, per se, the underlying is a bad thing. It's because the human systems haven't adjusted around it. So what was it? Last week, the major cryptocurrencies dropped by 30% in one day. Right? And that is the kind of volatility that a new nascent marketplace, financial marketplace and financial instrument does generate. And that's a negative. And finally, something that has to be thought about is the process of mining is so expensive. It's very energy intensive, right? That it has huge impacts from an environmental perspective. So unless you are connecting it in the back end to something like alternative energy, so that you are not, having the carbon impact, it could be potentially destructive. So that's sort of a summary of it. I hope I very simply explained the concept in terms of what is blockchain, what is the miner, and as I said, always go back to this vision of a large Indian wedding, because that is the basic mechanism, is that of a large Indian wedding, and you need honest Brahmins if this is going to work.
Well, thank you very much. The two of you have greatly simplified. I think Ramesh must be given priority because he is also part of the same game. So please tell us what you can tell us. We want a simple explanation. Do you think that we should adopt it, the system? And B, is there a danger that the Chinese can manipulate us? And three, that it can be used for money laundering.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Swamy. I mean, I just want to take a cue from what Gitanjali said about the analogy of marriage. Two things I just want to make an observation. You said a lot of people in the marriage maker, but that's not true in Dr. Swamy's case. There was no Brahmin. So
Actually, there was a Chinese priest.
But there was not a Brahmin. But anyway,
Chinese Brahmin.
not everybody witnessed this that
He
way.
was a Shinto priest.
Yeah.
Buddhist, yes, Buddhist.
So anyway, coming to that was a beautiful explanation, Gitanjali. I'm telling you, I mean, you've made it very easy because the audience is not looking into the weeds of saying that how the blockchain works and getting into the algorithms and stuff like that. But it's essentially at a policy level, how it impacts in general in terms of energy and stuff. I have a couple of observations and then questions. Okay. If you look at any of the cryptocurrencies, that I think they are basically should be evaluated based on security, scalability, and how decentralized. You've addressed the decentralized issue easily. And scalability is one issue that I, being a technical guy, look at it in the sense that right now, Bitcoins are transacting at about 15 transactions per second. Visa, MasterCard, and credit cards are doing in millions. So from a scalability standpoint, Bitcoin that technology is still extremely questionable because it's not scalable yet, number one. I mean, this is purely from a technical aspect. I mean, I'm just one. Security, yes, we all know how secure they are. I mean, depending on what technology they use, security-wise, it's pretty stable. But they have also been hacked because they have this 51% concept, saying that if you have 51% of the hardware available, you can take over a Bitcoin, you can take over a cryptocurrency. Which is not possible with Bitcoin. So there is some security issues as well. The second point, very clearly you mentioned, is the energy consumption. It's just, I mean, the rate at which the amount of energy you spend to mine one Bitcoin is just unbelievably high. I mean, which is not good for the environment in general, and plus with the kind of thing that's happening, harm that we get. The third observation I have, I think Dr. Swamy mentioned this a little bit. He asked a question saying that what would the governments do? I think the financial sovereignty of nations is definitely at question if you have free-floating cryptocurrencies. I mean, there are two concepts of, from an exchange rate perspective, there is a free-floating cryptocurrency, which is pretty much most of them, and there are a few that they have an idea to float it against the US dollar or a gold-based. So there is a concept. The one with the US dollar is now under criminal investigation. It's called Tether. They're under criminal investigation for manipulating Bitcoin because they said that all of their currencies are backed by the US dollar, which is not necessarily true. Now, the question again, this is probably from Gitanjali because she's got a lot of experience in the financial. From an exchange rate perspective, how do nations deal if they have different systems or currencies going around? On what basis do they do? I mean, the world that we know today of doing trade is different. So how do nations adapt and adopt? Before you answer the question, Dr. Swamy, yes, there is no way. India has to adopt and lead rather than say, okay, we're not going. Banning is the most stupid thing to do. I mean, we just have to adapt and move on because this is something that it's inevitable. You either adopt, move on, and be a leader rather than saying, oh, you know what, we will wait. I mean, typical Babudam needs to get to be thrown out of the window. Okay, Gitanjali, over to you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that, the question is, the person who adopts it and gets into it defines the future. I would rather have the future defined by a government than defined by a drug dealer. It's very simple, right? Mm. So this is the whole point, is the government needs to be an early adopter and it needs to set the boundaries of it. And one of the challenges that you find with regulation in general, and this is like a broader problem, is that it is a laggard rather than a leader. And so it doesn't define and shape, how the industry evolves. So I think the governments do need to take a proactive position and do need to shape the direction this will go and do need to put in checks and balances. I mean, I think this is important, right? Even though it goes against the notion of something that is decentralized. But I'm a huge believer in the role of government. Governments, and one of the challenges that they have in China is that it has been completely unregulated and ungoverned. And part of the crash that happened over the last recent past is because the Chinese government has now stepped in and started to put in, channels and saying, no, you can't do this, or you can do this, or we are going to watch this, etc.
Apparently, China is planning their own Bitcoin. I mean, in the sense that the equivalent of their own cryptocurrency or whatever.
Their own cryptocurrency as well, right?
Yeah,
So,
Dr. Swamy, you wanted to
what about Sree Iyer? Do you think that this is inevitable, that this cryptocurrency technology will be adopted by India and other countries?
Yes, Dr. Swamy. In fact, last week, the Federal Reserve Chairman also hinted that America is going to come up with its own standard. And what I see happening, and we have done this on PGurus in several shows, is that you will first start seeing the cryptocurrency being agreed like within a group of countries. Like, for example, the Quad could agree that payments can be done in a particular digital currency that all four will adapt, because what happens is it makes the thing go faster. Also, you can also monitor how the usage is happening, 30% draw, 20% draw, whatever is going on. All this is going to happen. I see that inter-government money transfers could be done on digital currency, and that would be the first phase. As far as consumer behavior is concerned, I'm not so sure that this is going to last for long. That is just my take. I could be wrong.
Sree, for a follow-up question. Even today, it's all digital, right? All transactions are digital in a sense that, there is no physical money moving around. It's all banking transaction on a SWIFT transaction, right? So how is it different?
Well, trackability. Supposing China gives $1.5 billion to Bangladesh, right? And if it's in digital form, then there is a way to find out how much the politicians skimmed off.
Okay. Well, maybe maybe Sree Iyer, you might do one of your famous books, Cryptocurrency Made Easy, and like you have done so many other books.
Like maybe Gitanjali can co-author it.
Well, okay, now Arvind is there and Jagdish are there, so let's hear from them.
Yeah, I have, keeping common man in focus, I have several questions. And both Sree and Gitanjali have presented the whole thing in such a nice way, but it still leaves many questions. I have few questions. I'll put them briefly, not necessarily in a proper sequencing, and you can answer the way you want. First thing is, since China controls majority of the mining, whether China can really control the currency world when it comes to exchange. For example, when intergovernmental exchange takes place, as Sree is suggesting, what will be the control of China? Number one. Number two, in India, we have a problem of unaccounted wealth, black money. People are storing their money through different Hawala transactions in different countries. Whether it will be convenient for them to use the cryptocurrency and store it wherever, because nobody can detect anyway anything, and the person who has a black money, maybe whatever color you can say of the money, but if the cryptocurrency is of course invisible, number one. Number two. Third is, what will happen to the intergovernmental Hawala transactions or unaccounted money deposited in Swiss banks or maybe other similar places. Fourth, who can mine? As you said, everybody is free to mine a coin. Now, we have several different types of cryptocurrency. You have Bitcoin, which is roughly around $32,000 per Bitcoin. But you have Ethereum, you have DogeCoin, you have Litecoin, and they're different values. There's something which is only, let's say, DogeCoin, which is 25 rupees, and Bitcoin, which is 27.5 lakhs. Now, so what is the exchange between these different cryptocurrencies? Like we have the exchange between dollar and rupee, we have exchange between rupee and pounds. What about exchange between a Bitcoin, Litecoin, DogeCoin, Ethereum, and so on and so forth? And last question, what happens if RBI, the controlling bank or the regulatory bank in India, starts its own cryptocurrency?
Iyer?
Actually, I was going to defer to Gitanjali see
Okay.
if she can come up with a wonderful allegories that maybe can help understand this better. Gitanjali, you take first, and then whatever is missing, I will try to add in.
See, this is why, I've always found that, I explain computer science in very simple terms because it is a beautiful, elegant subject. And, a lot of engineers hate me for it because I've simplified it too much. I haven't added the necessary sophistication on top of it. No, I mean, firstly, I think that a government offering, so let's go backwards, a government offering a cryptocurrency in some ways takes away what makes it compelling, right? The fact that we don't want. So I think the job of government should be to put in place standards and to say, and put in place guidance. The job of a government is to protect, right? Not to, and I think this is the whole point in terms of the boundary is, so that's number one, right? The power belongs to the people. So that's just a personal opinion on it. But I do think the government needs to protect, right? And make sure that there isn't malfeasance. With regard to this whole issue of, well, it's untraceable, so it's going to make it easier for black money. See, this is like the story of King Midas, right? Everything you touch turns to gold, but you can't eat gold, so you're going to die of starvation. The thing about money is, what do you do with the money? I mean, you can put it in a Bitcoin wallet and just sit at it and look at it. But the truth is, the way you catch people who are corrupt is that they want to buy vineyards, they want to buy chateaus, they want to go and get sailboats. And eventually, what is important to human beings is that connection to the physical world. You can't change the fact that we live here, right? So unless you want to be like King Midas and, try to eat gold, it doesn't matter. You will catch the corrupt people because eventually they want to use the money. They want to use the money for everything from buying an election to buying a chateau or a vineyard or a race course or whatever else. And so that connection is always there. In fact, in some ways, sort of speaking to Sree's point, the idea of using blockchain and cryptocurrencies to essentially provide legitimacy to land rights is a beautiful one. But eventually it'll be connected to the land. There is a physical piece of land there, right? So I think we're getting unnecessarily worried about the fact that this is anonymous. Even cash in some ways is anonymous, right? I mean, in India, they do things with suitcases, I believe. How do you know which bill is in that suitcase and so on and so forth? In fact, years ago, I remember my husband suggesting that what you need to do is in every piece of currency, you put in an RFID tag. And then, yes, all the suitcases that are being exchanged over, you can solve the problem because, the RFID tag will say, ooh, I'm being used in a corrupt transaction. So
would you like to tell us who's responsible for RFID?
Leading question.
That's something for a different discussion. But let me turn it over to Sree. I mean, I've tried to create this in a very simple, dumbed down answer here, but do you want to address the question now?
No.
Yes.
No.
I'll just add two cents to this. Arvindji, today, Bitcoin is not in full operation yet. We are not able to catch a single, leave alone politician, even a small IAS officer who has been taking bribes. You have not been able to catch them. And the reason is now everybody has accounts abroad and the settlement is doing in Dubai, which is where IPL gets played. I have been telling this, and Dr. Swamy has been screaming from rooftops, get rid of some of these big bandicoots. So Fali Nariman's thing is the only way India can at least try and say, this money belongs to you, whether you are going to bring it back here or not. This is known because there is no way you can escape that fact. Like Gitanjali said, you can't eat that. And Mr. Chidambaram is now sweating because I think the United States is going to try and force many of these tax havens to release their identities. This is happening, by the way. That's one of the good things. Yeah. So anyway,
just had a question. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm kind of going here and there. So the point here is that it is a step in the right direction, in my opinion, especially for the application that I listed out. May not be the best one, like Bitcoin, for example, you saw Elon Musk saying that I will take Bitcoin and give you a Tesla car, and now he's kind of slowly walking it backwards. I'm sure somebody's.
I think the exchange issue that you're talking about, it's like a currency exchange. So in terms of what the conversion between one or the other is, I'm sure they have the same argument. Well, dollars versus pounds, like who sets the exchange rate? There's a marketplace where the exchange rate is set. So the more you migrate towards a mature marketplace, a lot of these issues will start getting resolved.
What about
Sorry.
Just a minute. What about introducing KYC, know your customer?
Sir, the whole idea of using Bitcoin is anonymity, sir.
But we have a law which says the banks have a right to know your customers.
So that's why I try to differentiate permissionless blockchain versus permissioned blockchain, where you can try and limit the number of people who can put their foot into or put their toe into, dip their toe into, then it is definitely manageable. In the banks, I foresee, for example, loan disbursement, the bank can say that. Supposing a bank is giving 4 lakhs to a farmer, the bank can mandate that 1 lakh has to go to a fertilizer, 1 lakh has to go to getting a tractor, 1 lakh has to go to seeds, and so on and so forth. The remaining 1 lakh as pages, and the bank can make sure that the fertilizer company got the 1 lakh because the signature can be traced. Those are the advantages.
We have one of our team members, Tejas Navalgul, who is a technocrat himself. He is wanting to ask a question on the cryptocurrency. Over, Tejas, to you.
Thanks, Jagdish. So actually what I wanted to bring to our attention is like, even though this concept is good, which I also support, like I think recently we saw that the energy consumption for mining this Bitcoins was so much that it is almost capturing entire child consumption over a year, what was done for a single Bitcoin. So can we expect any mining technologies or innovations where it will be effective and low energy consumption will be there to mine it? Because then only it can be a long sustainable technology. Recently, Tesla also they have announced like they will no longer accept Bitcoin due to climate concerns. So I think there should be more innovations regarding mining technologies where there will be lower consumption of the renewable energy. So do you think like we should go that way to have it more sustainable? Like the question is to both of you, Gitanjali ji and Sree Iyer.
I'll let the good doctor answer it first.
See, let's me go first when it corrects my mistakes. But there are, and again, everybody's sort of focused on Bitcoin because it's the big gorilla, right, in the marketplace. But this is something I alluded to earlier. I said there are a lot of sustainable cryptocurrencies. So, like for instance, SolarCoin, right, or Viridium, which are tied to alternative energy or carbon credits. I mean, eventually, I think it's a question you can solve a lot of these issues if you go to more sustainable systems. I mean, think about, let's say we put huge space arrays out, or solar farms, and then we use only energy from them. Or you look at place like Iceland, where it's all geothermal energy. In Iceland, nobody heats their houses. They just go dig a hole and let the volcanic geothermal energy go through the house. It's the cheapest way to heat your house. So my whole point is that there are many sustainable solutions. There are many cryptocurrencies that are relying on those sustainable solutions rather than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's not, in my view, the role of a government is not to anoint a king, as to speak, but to put in place standards for what something must be. So not contain and say, oh no, you can only if you get authorized by, because I think that is the domain of misuse and corruption and so on and so forth. But if the government puts in place standards and says, I'm sorry, but only currencies which have sustainable use of sustainable energy are authorized, right? Then it sets the incentives towards more sustainable solutions, and they are there.
Yes. Yeah, makes sense.
Jagdish?
No, Sree Iyer
Also
wanted to
something?
comment. Sree Iyer ji wanted to comment on
Oh, yeah,
Tejas.
okay. Go ahead.
So,
See,
just
anytime.
really quickly, do you know the most profitable section of Tesla Motors today? It's not selling cars. It is
It's
selling
there.
the carbon credits he was getting because he was not using the normal methods of energy that he was selling to coal-based plants. So
Nice.
there's always this minor nuances, Tejas. Probably that's what maybe SEC or FBI or somebody said, listen, buddy, your whole stock price is riding on the fact that you've been able to sell all these carbon credits. Do you, and then you turn around and say you will take the Bitcoin. So anyway, something interesting happened and then he's now walking it back. Tejas, I think I would see blockchain technology be used. I'm not so hot on finance using this blockchain technology because it is hard to, no matter how many bounds and restrictions any government puts, people will find a way around this. That's what people are. I mean, we all are trying to break the system. There are people who spend 10 rupees to avoid paying 1 rupee tax. So
can I
hope
take
you
some
answered that
questions from the
question.
audience?
Yeah.
Okay. So one here. So will there be a single cryptocurrency or multiple ones coexist? So anybody can
Yes,
take.
Gitanjali.
Gitanjali, you can take. Yeah, and Sree Iyer, anybody can take.
Ladies first.
Okay, I hope there will be multiple. I'm very I don't like this notion of a monopoly. It goes against all the notions of how a capitalist system should function. So I genuinely believe that you will have multiple currencies and you should have multiple currencies. Just like in the world today, we have multiple sovereign currencies, right? You don't want everything to go to a dollar system, hopefully.
Yeah. Sree, you want to make a comment?
I agree, and it should be multiple. And I particularly like Ethereum because what Ethereum did was when they came out with their blockchain-based solution, they tried to make a wallet out of it called Ethereum Wallet, because that kind of immediately made people realize that if I have traveled to 4 different countries, most likely I'm going to carry the currencies of the 4 different countries, and therefore I'm going to have a wallet. And that concept they have successfully popularized, which kind of makes it easier for people to deal with multiple currencies and things like that. So I think that since some of these things are addressing a specific sector for a specific purpose, they will coexist. And I think Bitcoin will run out of steam once people realize that this is not worth doing it. If the energy cost is more than the cost of the Bitcoin, I think it's bye-bye.
Okay. Another interesting observation. I mean, Gitanjali, this is bring up to one of the things that you made. If people inherently trust the government and not the miners, right? So how do we address that? Because you said the government should just lay the foundation and move away and let not necessarily miners. I don't know how to term them. So who are the people who generate these coins to be? I mean, the RBI in effect.
Right. So basically, for instance, let's take one of these issues, and the government does have a role. I think that, that inherent trust which is there in a sovereign institution is a very important part of it. But, one of the issues that we brought up in the inherent technological approach was, how do you address the problem of miner collusion, right? How do you address the problem of miner collusion when 65, like in, say, for instance, a cryptocurrency like blockchain, 65 to 75% of the miners are sitting in China, right? So that's the kind of thing that a government can look at and say, any currency that meets sort of the government of India sovereign standard on acceptable currency has to have a worldwide distribution of miners, where there is no place which has a concentration of more than 20%, right, of miner concentration. So it's globally distributed, right? So I think that there are a lot of these things where the government can start shaping the direction. Instead of saying, I want to anoint Bitcoin, or I want to anoint Ethereum, it starts putting in place standards, right? And only authorizing things that meet the standard.
What about backing it up? Let's say for every Bitcoin that's out there, who's going to provide the backing? Or does it really require a backing?
It doesn't require a backing, right? That's the whole point of the technology. It's like in a marriage, right? It is the community which says this transaction occurred. It's a transaction verification mechanism, right? And
even now, technically speaking, for you, all the debt that we are in, we're 30 trillion, so it's not backed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, money is, it's I used to always joke about this. I said, the total, we have to be very careful with financial derivatives. The world GDP is what, 65 trillion or something, the value of all goods and services. Dr. Swamy can correct me on this, but I believe it's about 65 trillion worldwide GDP, 65 to 70 trillion, with crashes and all, it goes up and down. But okay, so now you're looking at that. Just the OTC derivative market, just OTC derivatives, not all derivatives, just OTs, over-the-counter derivatives, is 660 trillion.
Wow.
So what you're saying is a 10% drop in the OTC derivative market will wipe out the value of all goods and services produced in this world. Right? So, I mean, the problem with financial products and financial derivatives is, there's so much leverage. And this is where, again, the role of government is. It's not about backing it. It's stopping it from going out of control. And that going out of control is very human nature. Because you see, fear and greed are such big drivers of human decision making, right? We can't control our fear and our greed, right? We need 130 billion before we feel as if we have enough so that we don't die of starvation. That's a primeval instinct. So that's what governments do. They provide that, reasonableness, or that's the job, to provide the reasonableness so that fear and greed don't rule all the decisions.
Your case in point being recently, Dr. Swamy, one of the companies was valued bigger than GM, Ford, and I think 3 companies put together. They didn't even produce one nut bolt, but the valuation was so high. Dr. Swamy, there is a question for you here. So it says, is it important for the governments to trace money to go to the root of terrorist activity and malpractices? Basically, in the Bitcoin world, how do the governments?
Obviously, I fully agree with that. I mean, how do you determine the terrorist identities? I would say the Americans use the tracing the money trail. The money trail is the most important thing for them in identifying terrorists, and especially the Israelis have actually perfected this whole thing. I don't think there will be any threat here that the terrorists will run away with it. As Gitanjali said, we need not be over scared about these things. But at the same time, the most attractive, this cryptocurrency will be most attractive for terrorists in terms of financing, and they would try to somehow manipulate the system.
Okay. Sree, there is a question saying, how would cryptocurrency change the current banking system?
Well, for one thing, I think inter-country transfers should become more easy. In fact, you're already seeing that. If you use XOOM, Zoom, or Western Union, a certain set of transfers between one country to the other, they give it free. So they are trying to make this thing simpler, and that will increase more and more. And the banks who are giving you free transfer will probably have that as an additional service for their customers, thereby making themselves unique. And I think that is the way the bank should be looking at. How do I, attract new customers by making it cheaper for them to transact?
No.
Gitanjali, can Bitcoins be treated as an asset?
Gitanjali, you should answer this.
No. I think in general, cryptocurrencies are being treated as a new, asset class. And it's particularly relevant right now because if you look at it, the asset management market, one of the big problems that we're seeing is all the asset classes are correlated. So portfolio theory just completely breaks apart. It's like you can't hedge for risk because everything moves together, right? This is one of the challenges that we're seeing with this current market is everything's moving together. The stocks and bonds are moving in synchronism. So how do you hedge? So having a new asset class that doesn't move the same way necessarily is actually good because it's providing correlation, right? And so you can balance off risks and you can go back to the whole notion of efficient, portfolio theory, which has completely broken down in today's market.
How about you, Sree?
I kind of disagree with that. Gitanjali, you are more technically astute than me, and I'll tell you why I disagree. If you think about asset as gold, right? Gold is not going to lose 30% value overnight. There are no new mines that can suddenly make the supply of gold so much more that it will lose value by 30% overnight. Whereas Bitcoin is showing that symptom. It is not wide enough. It's not large base. It is being up and down because some hedge fund gets into it, the thing starts running up and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
I
but
think
if you look at all cryptocurrencies, right? So you can create mutual funds. In fact, BlackRock has applied, and BlackRock is one of the largest managers. This thing has applied to create a cryptocurrency fund. And I have certainly had a whole bunch of them approach and say, do you want to buy into our fund? And I'm interested in it. It's a total look. Do you consider a venture capital startup an asset class? Certainly, the big pension funds do. But I mean, at the end of the day, unicorns are probably just about as volatile as cryptocurrencies. In fact, I will argue that unicorns are more volatile than cryptocurrencies and far more risky, right? So, I mean, it's a high risk, high return asset. And in my view, it's a better high risk, high return asset than venture capital.
What Gitanjali said and what Sree just now said is related to this. My question is, as an investor, we have a stock market and we have different stocks and people have options to invest wherever they want. Now, do you think that investing in cryptocurrency is a good investment?
See, investments is a portfolio strategy. At least this is my view. I'm very conservative about it, right? So I am not a huge fan. I mean, some people will say that buying a lottery ticket is in India, I think chit funds, people make business of it. But, buying a lottery ticket is an investment, right? I think the issue is there a room in your portfolio of investments to look at, something with this risk return profile? And I'm saying, yes, this risk return correlation, and I will also add sustainability profile, because the more we start linking this to ESG directives, we're not just looking at risk return and correlation, we're looking at the sustainability as well. And is there room for it? Absolutely. This is an innovation where there is room for it. But you have to take it with all the risks that come into it, right? So I don't believe it's a good strategy to take your entire income and put it into lottery tickets. There are people who do this, right? So so I think you take it in that context, that there is absolutely room for something with this risk return correlation and sustainability profile.
Ethan, here there's another question.
We should move towards closure.
Yeah. The last question, Dr. Swamy, will take this because interesting is just the comment section is blowing up. So if Bitcoins come up in rupees, etc., how does one quantify it in money terms to estimate the total money supply in the system?
Good question. Yes, Gitanjali, start again and then.
No. This is a question for Dr. Swamy. I am not the economist. I'm the boring computer scientist.
Well, maybe in my next Arth Gyan Ganga, I might deal with the subject. It's not a simple subject. It's
I was going to say.
Very interesting question, but it'll take me at least 10-15 minutes to explain. Okay. There is one typing mistake. It's a total, not tot.
Typo, Dr. Swamy. How do we quantify it? Correct.
Jagdish hasn't had one word in. Please ask him to say something.
He is mining busy. He's busy mining Bitcoin, Dr. Swamy, on the side.
No, I only want to know ultimately what would be the government of India stand on this, or where is it standing on this for the benefit of our viewers?
I will put in a word before the answer comes from our experts here. The Reserve Bank of India in 2018 actually banned this as a Ponzi scheme. But the Supreme Court in 2020 struck it down. And now the government is threatening to use Prevention of Money Laundering Act. And when I said KYC, they say they are adamant that KYC will apply here also, which means killing the thing. But one doesn't know whether the government of India will stick with this, because there have been many changes after taking a tough stand. Our government has done the opposite. It depends on the international pressure, so many other factors. So at the moment, I think it's difficult to say, but so far in the last 5-6 years, the government has been very hostile to cryptocurrency.
No, Dr. Swamy, before our two guests answer further on this, I want to know, if I secretly hold a Bitcoin, how does the Reserve Bank at all know about it, and why do I have to take Reserve Bank permission?
No, you can't know. First of all, they cannot know that you have one.
Yeah,
There's no way for them to find out.
How is the Reserve Bank or any central bank in any country coming to know about whether I hold a Bitcoin somewhere or the other?
No, that's because you have to
having poked their nose into everything, having poked their nose into everything, they are very unhappy that there is something which will keep them completely out.
No, Jagdish, for you to buy that Bitcoin, you still have to convert your rupees or dollar to first to that Bitcoin, right? Yeah. You can shift that from one wallet to another. They wouldn't know.
No, if I have black money, I do the I'm not here to educate anybody.
Listen, Jagdish, Gitanjali said, well, you may have in secret, but then what are you going to do with the money? There are lots of eagle eyes who will be waiting for you to show some buying spree. Yeah, go on.
The biggest vulnerability, Jagdish, that you have is the fact that the government probably has some form of monitoring software sitting on your cell phone. so you see, it's the user end that you should be worrying about. You can have the Bitcoin. The problem is, can you make sure that you can access it without them not knowing? Because if they're monitoring, I mean, if they put a camera over your shoulder and they're watching everything you do, then the moment you go in to play with it, they're monitoring your internet traffic. So the problem is the user end.
Any
last points from the audience?
Sree Iyer perhaps wanted to answer this fact.
I think Indian government will lead from the behind, and they will also join the bandwagon. Once the American government takes a stand on digital currency, I think India will also
first
join.
Figure out how much IGST we have to imply. Then only you will get into Bitcoin.
Just to one point, currently China State of Council has banned financial institutions and payment companies from providing any services to cryptocurrencies. That is why we see a recent fall in the market.
Two days ago. You're right.
Yeah.
Arvindji, go ahead. Conclude.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Before he concludes, I have to say that by popular demand, Sree Iyer, you have to write a booklet.
I will, sir. I will.
Indeed, this kind of book, if he writes, it will fulfill the demand for the knowledge about Bitcoin, which is actually a dark area. And I'm sure this program of Virat Hindustan Sangam discussing it in public with the experts like Gitanjali Swamy and Sree Iyer, with the expert comments from Dr. Subramanian Swamy, this will go a long way in fulfilling the requirement of at least basic knowledge about the cryptocurrency, basic knowledge to even understand how Bitcoin is different from any other Litecoin or any other currency, what is the role of the government, and the way Gitanjali had actually put it earlier in this about the solar energy and the applications which Sree Iyer had suggested, like how the blockchain technology can be used for electioning, voting in elections, and so on and so forth. So that means a lot of work has to be done by the governments, by the academicians also, and of course, the last question which remained actually unanswered was that what is the value and how the value is counted in the GDP of the country. And just one more comment on what Jagdish had actually said is a very important question. Jagdish, when we have a transaction, there is no exchange place where you can go and carry the bag full of money and buy a Bitcoin. You have to exchange. So the existing exchange system that we have, government has full control over it, whether it is net banking, whether it is any other non-banking or a Paytm or a Phone Pay or whatever you have. In fact, the complete wallet, the digital wallet is totally under government control, and every transaction which you do, whether it is 100 rupees or 100,000 rupees, is known to the government. So therefore, it is in a way fully controllable. And I think it is time. Supreme Court has actually enabled government to allow the transactions. And of course, whatever RBI is thinking, RBI should think in terms of positive applications which have been suggested here, which is the blockchain technology, how blockchain technology, including what Sree Iyer earlier said, to maintain the land records and so on and so forth. So on this note, I thank the speakers, Dr. Gitanjali Swamy, Sree Iyer, and Dr. Subramanian Swamy. I thank my co-host Ramesh Swamy, Jagdish Shetty, and Tejas Navalgund. Till then, namaskar, Jai Hind.
Sure. No, one point, there is a demand that we must have another session. So when Sree Iyer has finished his book, we will have a book release function about that. If you want, you can send your draft to Gitanjali and acknowledge it in your footnote, in your preface. But for the VHS, we want Mr. Sree Iyer, as he has done in the past, to produce a booklet. Yes, you agree, Sree Iyer?
Yes, I will. In fact, I just wanted to add to your thing, sir. In my first book of fiction called Who Painted My Money White, I actually state the problem about how layering is done to try and hide under the level where the financial investigating agencies don't look at a transaction. So I think it leads into the concept of how to solve that. Right. So I definitely will, sir. It's a pleasure. Ramesh, you have something to say?
Yeah, I already have a title. Who converted my currency to digital?
Okay. Good one.
Okay. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.